A year in my life actually ended up changing the way I see the martial arts. Most people know by now that a friend of mine, um, in response to his daughter being sexually abused, he actually took a man's life. And I was picked up because it was assumed that I had done it because a camera picked us up training. So the way the camera looked when we were seen working out, it looked like we were the same height. We had the same sweatsuit on, but it looked like we were the same height because of the angle of the camera. He's 5'10", I'm 5'7", but the way that the camera angle was, it looked like we were the same height, and we're practically the same build, although he's a few inches taller. So when he did what he did, I was seen going into a store, and I was picked up in a case of mistaken identity. And I knew he would turn himself in. He wouldn't let me take the rap. I knew it, but there were things that he had to get done before he turned himself in. I am being housed actually in the cafeteria because it's overcrowded. But anyway, they had a certain amount of time in which they needed to find me a cell. Now, they think I'm guilty. So they're trying to find me a cell on a floor or a bed in a dorm where people are awaiting trial or they've been sentenced and waiting to go to state prison, but they are killers guilty of homicide. Well, they couldn't find a place for me before my lawyer actually made it clear that they were actually overstepping their bounds, that they were really kind of getting beside themselves legally because there was a certain amount of time in which they were obligated to get me a cell. So rather than put me on the floor with people who were found guilty or getting ready to stand trial for homicide, they put me in a dorm situation with people who are far more dangerous. And those people are not people who shoot people. See, many people think the one who uses a gun is dangerous. Those aren't the people who are most dangerous. They're not. The people who are most dangerous are people who have committed aggravated assault or attempted murder. Okay? Those people are far more dangerous than people who shoot people. And I won't get into it here in this video, but because it's not pertinent. It's not pertinent. I don't. It's information that will not necessarily advance my point or help my point. But I do want to get that in. There are many people who believe that the one who shoots people is dangerous. That's not it. The most dangerous criminals, when it comes down to some kind of physical killing or doing bodily injury, are people who were found guilty or people who were charged and rightfully charged, whether they've been officially found guilty or not, but been charged with aggravated assault and or attempted murder. And the reason is because a shooter doesn't bring his gun into the institution. But those people who are found guilty or charged with aggravated assault, they bring their weapon of choice into the institution. Their weapon of choice comes with them, and because their weapon of choice is usually these. Usually these. So although they were really waiting to house me on the floor as per my charge, which was to people who committed homicide or were being charged with homicide, they only found room for me in a dorm situation with people who were found guilty, were charged with aggravated assault or attempted murder, most of them with their hands. And that brings me to this. I am waiting 6 months. I wait 6 months for my friend to turn himself in. He turns himself in, but then, because of the corrupt system, because of this, this ridiculous kangaroo kind of system they have, they kept me for another 6 months because they didn't want to take a chance on releasing me, and me and him worked in tandem. Okay? So, after he turns himself in, says I had nothing to do with it, right? He killed the man, he shot the man, right? And why he shot the man, they still kept me for another 6 months. So we're talking about a year. Now, it's not 10 years, it's not 20 years, but it was long enough for me to change my mind completely on the martial arts. Because there I saw people get jumped, okay? Beat up bad. And there was nothing, in retrospect, nothing that a martial art could have done that would have helped that man much. Much. Now, I'm not saying certain martial arts would not have been better. But my point is that he was throwing punches. Boxing didn't help him. He was trying to grapple. Now, he wasn't a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But in that situation, there is no way that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu would have helped that man. Now, the only thing I can think of that might have helped might have been karate, believe it or not. Because we're talking about elbows, we're talking about headbutts, and we're talking about fighting in different positions. But then, the way he was getting wailed on, I don't even think that will work. But my point is that boxing and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu certainly would not have worked in that particular situation. It wouldn't have. No way. Now, again, I'm not saying any martial art would have worked. I am simply telling you that that was a situation that had nothing transpired in that situation that a martial art that that is popular with you people would have helped that man. Because I hear so many people say, well, oh, you got to box. That's self-defense. Boxing is boxing. Boxing is a part of self-defense. It's a great tool to have, to be able to throw punches like a boxer. Even the boxing stance is one that I think helps you get in and out and change direction relatively fast. And I don't mind anyone taking on a boxing stance in a self-defense situation or in a self-defense system that they are trying to put together. But the idea that all you need to do is box and then you're going to be safe in the street, no matter what goes on, simply not true. Someone pulls a blade on you. Someone tries to hit you with a stick. What are you going to do? Shoulder roll? What are you going to use to peekaboo in that situation? No. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, what are you going to do? Imagine that. Try to picture that. Right? Where in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu are you better able to survive with more than one individual? Not even 3, more than 1. There was another situation. A gentleman accused a man of cheating in a card game. They got in an argument. They went their separate ways. They had to go into their cell. By now, we all have cells. I'm out of that dorm situation. I have my own cell. So they're playing cards, and they go into their separate cells. And one of the guys says, you know what? When you wake up, it's on. Now, chow time, going to breakfast was 6 o'clock. The cell opens up. Now, the man who made the threat, he has to go past my cell to get to the other guy's cell. And I see him moving past my cell, and I know where he's going. The food is not that good for him to run. I don't care if he was homeless for years in the street. The food is not that good in that kind of institution for him to be running to breakfast. But he went past my cell like a bat out of hell. I peeked out, and he ran into the cell, right? And that man that he jumped on, that accused him of cheating, he ended up in the hospital. Ended up in the hospital for close to a week. Now, that's a big deal because when you are in a correctional institution, okay, they don't really care about you that much. When you should be in the hospital for 2 weeks, they let you stay for a day. This man was in the hospital for a week before they went and got him and brought him back to the correctional institution. Okay? So what was the problem? The man had threatened him. So what did he do wrong? The man had threatened him. Right? If he didn't take the man seriously when he threatened him, when he told him when they woke up it was on, if he didn't take him seriously, that was a problem. But what else did he do? He did not sleep in his jumpsuit. He didn't sleep in his jumpsuit. He slept in his t-shirt and his boxers. Okay? In his t-shirt and his boxers. So what happens is when the cell opens up, he remembers that the guy said when he sees him, it's on, and he's trying to get into his jumper, and he gets caught with the bottom part of his jumper on, but his arms are in the sleeves. He gets caught like that. Has nothing to do with the martial arts. Nothing whatsoever. The third one. There's a man who comes in. He has a problem with dope. There's a guy who's he's a dope addict, right? Okay. He's getting ready to go through withdrawals soon, right? He's having symptoms. His nose is running. He's having aches and pains, from what I understand. I've never done those kind of things. Always been more vain than to do hard drugs, right? Obviously, well, not so obviously, but I don't do anything now. But never did, hard drugs. Always too vain for that. Some women back in the day would say I was too stuck up for that. But this guy, from what I understand, and people have told me, I've had family members who were heroin addicts. His nose is running. He's aching. Withdrawals are coming full force. There's a guy who promises to have some dope. He says some dope is being brought in, and he's going to give him a bag of dope. When it comes in, he's going to give him a bag. The man pays him for it. He has somebody put $50 for a $10 bag of dope. Put $50 on his books, right? On the promise, on the word that when he gets his girlfriend to bring that dope in, that he's going to give him his bag. Well, the girlfriend brings some dope in, but it's not nearly as much as the man bringing it in thought. So he looks at the guy, he looks at the man, nose running, aches and pains, and he says, I can't give that to you. I'll pay you the money back. I can't give that to you. Now, the man is going through withdrawals, right? It's getting there. It's like almost full force, right? Diarrhea, everything. He's in no position to jump on that man who promised him that bag of dope. So he says, what? What? Okay, yeah, okay. Well, he kicks the habit. Everyone is in the mess hall, right? I'm in another table, but I see the man who promised the dope sitting down, who promised to give the man a bag of dope. I see him sitting down, acting like everything is forgotten. I see the man who now got some weight on him. He's no longer, going through those withdrawals, fresh haircut, skin has cleared up, right? I think he even had a release date and ready to go home. Things are pretty good for him now, right? He has his tray. He gets his tray. He walks over behind the man's back who promised him the bag of dope. Now, he hasn't eaten. He hasn't eaten yet. It's his breakfast. He hasn't eaten all night. He goes and he dumps all the food from that metal tray. Dumps the food from that metal tray, and the man who promised the dope to him is still not looking. Noticed him. He saw him come in and was too freaking arrogant to keep his eye on him. right? I saw him look at him when he came in, right? The man who emptied out his food, he calls the guy's name. The guy turns around, hits him full force with the sharp end of the metal tray in the face. Full force. With the sharp end of the metal tray in the face. Okay? The man who gets hit with the tray is maybe 160 pounds. Maybe. The man who got hit with the tray in the face. The man who hit him in the face is probably 220. If someone told me that someone could get hit in the face and have the face lay open and split open like that, someone could get hit like that and live, I would never have believed it. He gets hit, he screams, falls out, blood all over the place, he passes out. I mean, what it looked like to me, a man who I had been through the crack epidemic. I saw violence. I saw violence during the crack epidemic. I saw it. Some of the worst violence. That kind of wound I had never seen. I had never seen that kind of wound to a man's face and that man survive. Never. Martial arts had nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with it. No martial art was that man's problem that got hit in the face. His problem was not understanding self-protection, being aware of your surroundings. Just being aware of your surroundings. The man who was caught in his cell, halfway in his jumper, right? Just forgetting that someone threatened him. Okay? Someone threatened him. The man who got jumped, not understanding that he should never have placed his back to a wall. Never should have placed his back to the wall. Never. He left himself no way out. Okay? No way out. Not to mention, he had plastic spoons, plastic forks that he had, that we all had, that we were able to bring back from child. Didn't sharpen one, didn't walk around with one, and he knew that they were going to jump him, or he knew something was going to happen. Not one of those three incidences had anything to do with the martial arts and everything to do with understanding self-defense and not letting our ego overrule common sense. When I finally was able to get out of that place, I started training completely differently. Completely differently. And what I talk about today, what my curriculum is really going to be about, what the kind of advice that I give, the reason why I always try to distinguish when I'm talking about MMA or talking about boxing, the reason why I try to distinguish between and tell you people the difference between self-defense and sport is because what I saw during that year under those circumstances. Safe Carmen. See you next week.